Hello there, YouTubers. It's Gus Estacio from Healing X Outreach, back at it again. Hey, I had a friend. She Facebook messaged me last night, and she wanted me to answer this question. She had an encounter with some Jehovah's Witnesses, and the issue came up about military service. And I'm not sure this is a subject. I've broached this subject before on our podcast, but it's been so long I don't even know which one it would be. So I told her, you know what, this is noteworthy enough for me to go ahead and bring up on YouTube and share with others. So, what do we do with Christians who serve as policemen or serve in the military? Is it an anti-Christian thing to do? Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses, of course, say that, Jesus said that he would have fought, that his kingdom was no part of this world, and that, excuse me, ooh, look at that, I'm dribbling on myself, and can't even drink right, and that, of course, that's the reason why they don't partake in military service. Now, for a long time, Jehovah's Witnesses, well, not even for that long, for a short time, Jehovah's Witnesses would not do alternative service. So, I'll give you an example. My uncle, Cheeky, he was one of the few people who was called in the draft to fight in Vietnam, and he died at the war. But my other uncles didn't go. And of course, they were conscientious objectors, but they had to go to prison. And in some countries, of course, you could be a conscientious objector, but they're not going to acknowledge that. You're either going to do your service or you're going to do some prison time. And so, for a long time, you could do alternative service. You don't have to do combat service. You could work in medicine or whatever. They would even let you do your job as considered as an alternative to serving military. So they said, okay, because you're a conscientious objector, instead of fighting in combat, you can do 40 hours at some kind of job, or even at your own job, as comparable service, and we'll count it as service done or completed. And even the witnesses wouldn't even allow that because it was still considered military service. Well, I remember in the 90s, maybe late 90s, that they had changed on alternative service. And in some countries, Jehovah's Witnesses have been in prison for years because they refused alternative service. Because it would be a compromise on neutrality according to Watchtower policy. So can you imagine when they changed the policy, what was the reaction? You're talking about families that don't have their husbands or whoever it is that was asked to do the service, they're in prison. And some of them actually were in such denial that this happened, and that they still felt that the old policy was the biblical one, that they still continued doing their prison time because they just felt that this is what God would have wanted. Rather, it's not what God would have wanted, it's what they have been impressed upon them that God would have wanted, and they can't believe that God changed his mind, i.e. the Watchtower Society changing their policy. So, the big question is, what WWJD, what would Jesus do, right? Would he hold it against Christians if they served as a police officer or in the military? Well, The assumption, of course, is that because Jesus did not fight for his freedom, that he was some sort of pacifist. You know the whole story. You know, they turned. You know, the soldiers came in, and I think it was Peter that struck the ear of one of the soldiers, and Jesus healed him and said, "Those who live by the sword will die by the sword," and so on and etc. Therefore, you know, we shouldn't take up the sword. Or the assumption is that Jesus was against the idea of Christians participating in any form of violence. There's a couple of things to remember. One, Jesus was a Jew. He was a Jew who believed in the Old Testament. And as you know, the Old Testament is not, it has its share of violence. That is, the people of God fought in wars. And they fought for their freedom, and they fought for their land, and they fought for their security. And I think that that's where this argument really centers on. Are we allowed to defend our homes? And defending our homes means a couple of things. It means putting a security system. But it also means that if somebody comes into your home, that you might have to, you know, get entangled in some type of violence to protect your family. Would Jesus be against you protecting your families? Would he hold it against you that you shot someone with a gun? Or if you took a kitchen knife and you stabbed someone in trying to protect your family? Well, let's go even further. Police officers are for our protection. And one who serves in the position of a policeman or security guard or any of those things is a form of security. You are protecting not only your home, but others' homes in that position. And that's a noble thing. Let's go even further. Protecting our country, the freedoms that we have. By protecting our country, we're protecting our home. By protecting our home from criminals, we're protecting our home. So all of these things are things to keep in mind. But there are two passages of Scripture, and in the description below, I'm going to put two articles, one by John Piper on whether Jesus was a pacifist, and I actually like J. Warner Wallace's article better, but it's in his website, Cold Case Christianity. That also will be below, about the arguments on whether Jesus was a pacifist. Well, one of the things that we know about Jesus is that he encountered men who served in the military, and he did not chastise them for their military service. In fact, he uses this man's military authority as an example. And it is in the book of Matthew, chapter 8. And we start with verse 7. Let's start at verse 5. Now, when Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, pleading with him, saying, "Lord, my servant is lying at home, paralyzed, dreadfully tormented." And Jesus said to him, "I will come and heal him." The centurion answered and said, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this one, 'Go,' and he goes. And to another, 'Come,' and he comes. And to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard it, he said, "You should stop being a soldier." No, he didn't say that. When Jesus heard it, it says, he marveled and said to those who followed, "Assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. And I say to you that many will come from east and west and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go your way, and as you have believed, so let it be done for you." And his servant was healed that same hour. So Jesus didn't chastise this man for his military service. In fact, he marveled that this man, using his military authority as an example, had great faith. Would have been a perfect opportunity to say, your authority should come from heaven and from God, and you shouldn't be killing people or participating in violence. But the man, using his authority as a military centurion, he marveled at this faith. So Jesus was not against the career of protecting oneself. He didn't use it against people. We find the same incident with Peter and another centurion also in the book of Acts. And he doesn't chastise that man. But let's go to a really specific scripture, especially dealing with the fact that Jesus talked about those who live by the sword will perish by the sword. And whether Jesus was really against arming oneself. One of the things was, of course, that Jesus had to be turned up for him to fulfill certain prophecies. That's one of the reasons why he had to be turned in. But Jesus is not against securing yourself, securing your home, even with a weapon. In Luke chapter 22 and verse 36, we'll start. And this is Jesus speaking. It says, "Then he said to them, but now he who has a money bag, let him take it, and likewise a knapsack. And he who has no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say to you that this which is written must still be accomplished in me. And he was numbered with transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. So they said, Lord, look, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, it is enough." He didn't say, put them swords down. He didn't say, put them Colt 45s, them 9 mils down. Rather, Jesus said, hey, that's good enough right there. We got some swords. So he believed in securing yourself, securing your home, protecting yourself. He had nothing against buying weapons to do so. But he also would not fight for his release, and because his kingdom was the kingdom of heaven. Now, those of us, because we live on earth, our dwelling place or our kingdom right now is our homes, and so we have the right to protect our homes, and whether it is even being a police officer, which is a means of protection. Probably that's the equivalent of a centurion, or even as a military man. You're protecting our home here in America and your home wherever you dwell if you're a soldier or a military man. I think those are 2 good scriptures as far as go-tos. There are many others. And I left those scriptures, of course, to John Piper, who's a great preacher, and I love John Piper. He's a Baptist preacher, Bethlehem Baptist. Check him out if you like to hear some good preaching. And he's on YouTube. And Warner Wallace in the description below. So I hope those 2 scriptures will help you as far as dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses at your door, or if you're pursuing a career as a boy in blue or gal in blue, or 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 a camouflage career as a military person. And I know some ex-witnesses that serve in the military. We had them as a host on our program a couple times. Jeremy Shepard. So Jeremy Shepard, kudos to you. You know, you've served in the military, and this is probably a good one for you. God bless you all. Have a great day. Be safe while you're quarantining. I'm going to go get some burgers because I'm grilling today. And got my mask to get ready to go into the store. And take care of you. And if you have any loved ones, take care of them. God bless you. Bye-bye.